with his company or his platoon of Tigers, company of Tigers. So an SS Heavy Tiger battalion is about 50 tanks. So Wittmann's company, he is now, as you can see, an Obersturmbannführer, which is a captain at the moment, a company commander, and he's got his #2 company of the SS Battalion 101, which is Tigers. That's where the Tigers are. He is a veteran of the Eastern Front. He's knocked out, his score is about 119 or something tanks on the Eastern Front. He's not the highest tank ace that Germany have. That's another guy's in the Wehrmacht who fought at the Battle of Prokhora, and his name I never can remember, who has a score of about 200 Russian tanks, who ends up in the German army after the war as well, because Wittmann doesn't, we know that he doesn't make it. So Wittmann's here, and what armoured crews do is when you've had a night march, and he's had lots of night marches, you've got to get ready for the following day, and it's looking after your horses. It's the cavalry tradition. So you keep one tank on overwatch, and the rest of you set about opening your decks, tightening your tracks, checking your hubs and all the rest of it. All of those things you've got to do on a heavy vehicle which is working at full capacity the whole time. That's the thing about tanks, is that a tank engine, you can take a very, very successful engine out of a truck or a bus or whatever it is, but that don't work at full capacity from the moment it starts till the moment it stops. A tank engine does that, and you put ammunition on and all the rest of it, then you've got those things to do. So Wittmann and his troop, his platoon, are now doing their maintenance, but Wittmann's tank he's there listening on the radio, waiting to see what's happening. And staggeringly, he doesn't know these are coming, staggeringly this column of tanks comes up this road, and Wittmann is in the bushes over there. And if we go into this field sometime, the best guess is that his tank is lined up slightly down off the high ground in those trees over the far side of that field. So if you come in and you can see over there, there's those trees, and he's at the back of that field over there, and he's going to come out of one of the entrances of the one of these entrances. No, I mean, there's a lot of people have done a lot of work on trying to work out exactly where he is. And have I got a map here? Okay, you've got Wittmann. Wittmann is here at one of the tracks. Yep. So Montbrock is here. So you're somewhere. Tilly-sur-Celles is this is the old road, and Wittmann is somewhere in the woods. Nobody can know for sure, all right, because they don't go asking him. So he then comes out, and what you've got is his A squadron go right at the top, and you've got tanks now spread out all along this line, and you can see them dotted up. So once you've got your advance guard, no contact with German soldiers, they then dig in, they then stand around in an all-round defence, which tanks do. That is the first part. And then you've got A company, which is your intimate company, which is supporting the whole of the regiment. There's the other companies are with the 2 other tank regiments, who are way back. 5 tanks are way at the back. First RTR are the second lot. They're on the other side of Villers Bocage, which you can see here. And you've got B squadron, C squadron, and the CO's party, which is here. And it's the CO's party's there. Car is the CO, and the RSM and all the rest of it, right on the edge of the town. And so we're a little bit to go. And what happens then is Wittmann realises it's the moment to act. They all get off. They think they've partly achieved their aim. They've got tanks on the top, but they don't. And so what happens is all these group of gaggle of vehicles here closes up. Wittmann rolls his Tiger out of the woods in the time that the other guys are now slamming their deck shut, climbing in, putting all their tools away, and getting ready to act at the same time, because although this action is credited to Wittmann, it should be credited to his entire platoon, really. And so Wittmann comes out and very cleverly has now cut them in half by simply driving that way. They've now got to spin around and come around the other way. Wittmann then goes out, pops off the first of the vehicles, and at pretty close range as well, and he ain't going to miss with an 88mm at that range, starts creating carnage in all that happens. And you can see from the diagram here, Daddy comes all the way down, knocking off tanks bit by bit. In the way, he goes past Dias, who's the adjutant of the battalion, Lockwood B Company, B Squadron leader, and he comes past here, down into the outskirts of the village. That is where the new roundabout is, which goes on another version away up to Villers Bocage and Tilly-sur-Selles, down into the town, and then has to turn around because, remember, I've already alluded to, you've only got so many rounds available to you immediately, and then you've got to go round and turn around and restow the stuff from somewhere else. You just can't keep fighting. You've only got 40 odd rounds anyway, and that's what he does. Turn around, comes all the way back, and of course his guys then join in the fray. And that's really, in my view, that's where the real damage is done, is by those other tanks getting involved in. Wittmann has created that initial shock and awe and stunned everybody. They've now got to start reacting to what's going on around them, and reacting onto what's going on around them are 2 more Tigers coming down the track at them. And of course those Tigers come down, and the damage they wreak is immense. I mean, Wittmann is credited with 30 vehicles of his own, but on subsequent actions during the day. And what happens is you can see what an 88 does to a Cromwell, and it knocks out several of the Cromwells, some in the town, some up here. And also, if I sort of slowly go through them, this was newsreel footage shot by the Germans. A little bit later on, I've got a better picture, I think. There it is. There's more vehicles being smashed up. These are all stills off German news. I mean, some of them are the same. Look, you can pass them around. Take that one as well. Of what they've done, and you can see they're not all tanks. There's wheeled vehicles as well there. So it's an armoured column with motorised infantry, with its support vehicles. Their Bren carriers will be there carrying their mortars and stuff like that. But it's creating carnage. So the battle is joined. 22nd Armoured Brigade have got a real fight on their hands. They know this, and the battle rages all day and into the next day. That's the bit that's oft not told. And the other units of the Panzer Lehr come forward. Wittmann's tank is knocked out on his second foray into the town of Villers Bocage, where we're going to go. He's knocked out somewhere. You'll see where the old town begins. The houses look different, yeah. And the RSM is knocked out down there. He parks the RSM's house out outside somebody's house, and Wittmann goes down and gets an M kill. And he has to climb off his tank, go back, and he comes back into the battle, not in a Tiger, but a Panzer IV, because there ain't that many Tigers around. And so he then comes back, and after about 20 hours or so, what happens is 22 Armoured Brigade realise they've got to pull back. They don't ever see Lord Cranley again, never find him. I don't know where he is. He's not on a memorial. He's not in a cemetery. I think he just disappears. I think he becomes a prisoner of war, and nobody ever finds him afterwards. I think he's embarrassed about what happens. The upshot is 4th County of London Yeomanry are disbanded, and absorbed into 3rd County of London Yeomanry, who are in another brigade somewhere. And 22 Armoured Brigade really has to look to itself. To their credit, 1st and 5th RTR fight enormously, and the rest of the 4th County of London Yeomanry and the Rifle Brigade fight a bitter battle in the village of Villers Bocage, and gradually pull back to Villers-sur-Selles and pull back a little bit further, and are in real danger of getting cut off. And on the night of the day of the 14th of June, when they really make the decision to go back, it's the artillery of the 1st American Division, who are the next division along, that actually shield them back beyond and back to Tilly-sur-Selles, where, truth is, 7th Armoured Division don't do much then till Goodwood, nearly a month and a half later. They're around and about, but you don't hear of them doing much there, because this 11th Armoured Division gets to do Epsom, and 7th Armoured Division find themselves doing Operation Goodwood, where they again don't really come up with the goods. And when we get to Villers-sur-Selles, I'll tell you how fast it is to lose a reputation, which takes a long time in building it. German media, however, has made big of this, because now they've got the Allied landings to deal with, and so there are available out on YouTube and all the rest of it footage of Wittmann's attack here, and Wittmann is fated as the great tank killer of the Western Front. He's now come to the east. Look what he's done, and he's now celebrated, and eventually picks up his extra decoration of the Knight's Cross with oak leaves and all the rest of it, and cross swords he eventually gets, I think, goes up, doesn't it? And it's diamonds at the top end of that, yeah. and he gets it. Wittmann is then fated by the Germans, and so when eventually he's killed, that is a real blow to German morale. The British argue, we don't even know who he is. They don't. Who is this guy? You know, it's all over German newsreel footage, but actually the British don't actually hear who Wittmann is, and certainly leaping ahead a little bit to tomorrow, Eakins, who says that we didn't know who he was, just a German tank. Yeah, but post World War II, when we've gone back and reflected for armoured soldiers, and the reason I bring them here, this is an example of how not to do things, how you can do things, and how actually you've got to stop when the going's good, because Wittmann went back again and then got his own tank knocked out when maybe he should have just taken a bit of stock. But there we are. That's easy to say.
Did he just go in with one tank at the beginning?
One tank.
No infantry?
No infantry, tank. They eventually bring the Panzer Grenadiers or the Panzerlehr get involved in the fight, because the commander of the Panzerlehr, whose name has slipped my mind, is quite an accomplished tank commander, and he realises he's got a major armoured battle on his hands here, and they get involved in the fight for Villers Bocage. Villers Bocage thinks it's been liberated temporarily. Oh no! There's a story at Tilly-sur-Seulles. There's a story at Tilly-sur-Seulles of that when they first arrived in Tilly-sur-Seulles. The unit, whoever it was, 50th Tyntese Division get in, their Recce Regiment gets in, and as they're driving through the town, the townspeople come out and think this is our moment of liberation, and what the Recce commander does, he looks up, whoa, I don't like the look of that, and up above him are fighter bombers, and he don't know whether they're fighter bombers, in fact the 24th Lancers is the lead element of them, and they decide this is not the place to be, because already the word of blue on blue is getting around. So they then disappear, and the villagers are all on the main road celebrating. The fighter bombers see lots and lots of people in an area where they don't believe there's any British soldiers, and strafs the villagers.
Jesus.
30 plus of the villagers of Tilly-sur-Seulles are killed by Allied air power.
I wonder if she's still pissed off.
Yeah, so you know there's a real reflection by some of them saying, actually that's the price of liberation, and say younger people who don't remember it are saying, well, it's the British that killed my grandfather or my my great uncle, not the Germans. It's just the thing. Yeah. Okay. So there he is. when they come back to Villers Bocage, the US Air Force and the Allied Air Force flatten the town. Flatten it. So, you know, that's what we do, and it's then occupied, as I say, on the 4th of August by the infantry of 1st Dorset, 231 Brigade, 50th Tyntese Division. Not much left. Wreckage of tanks and all the rest of it. It's not quite the Wittmann story, but it's enough for here, I think. We'll go into the town and have a look at where the rest of them were. Yeah, and you can see those are out in the countryside, but there's one of them here, which is there's a tiger. If you don't know which one it is, it's in my booklet. I think it's in my booklet. There's one of them backed in. That's Dias. I think he's backed his tank into the wood, and he actually catches. He's the one who claims he shoots Wittmann's road wheels off, which is why Wittmann ends up with an M kill. There are thousands of photographs of this. I think. Dias, backs in. I don't think I've got a photograph of it. No, I haven't. But there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of footage out there, because some of the County of London Yeomanry are still around, so they've done a lot of work on trying to, I don't know, clear their name probably. I don't know what it is, but they do it. But here it is. This is where it starts, and that's where it ends. Yeah, happy with that?
Brilliant.